Both fighters underwent extensive VADA testing and UCAD testing in the preparation of that bout. Both fighters went into that bout fully cleared and licensed to fight by those people and by the British Boxing Board of Control. There was a hearing for Dillian Whyte prior to the fight where he was asked to provide information, and he was cleared to fight. So that's what I can tell you. There'll be more information coming out tomorrow. That's important because there's like this big speculation that no one knew and it was brushed under the carpet. No, there was a procedure that was followed. I'm not a doping agency. I'm not a governing body or a commission. Once those people clear a fighter to take part, the fight's on. And there was a hearing to listen to evidence pertaining to that during that process, and the result of that meant that the fight took place.
Okay, question for you. Was the WBC notified about the inquiry?
I don't know, that's a question for the British Boxing Board of Control. We don't notify people of confidential information between a fighter, the governing body, and the testing agency. In a VADA environment, VADA report on their tests, okay, to various different people. So for instance, VADA don't sanction fighters, they don't suspend fighters, they just report the information. Dillian Whyte's entire VADA history completely clear in a preparation to the Ruiz fight. So all the reports that the WBC would have got is all of his cleared tests. UCAD do sanction fighters, they do suspend fighters, they do stop fighters from taking part. And they went through that process. They had an independent panel, a hearing with Dillian Whyte, and he was cleared to take part in the fight. So whether the WBC were informed, that's a question for the British Boxing Board of Control.
Now, a lot of people in the US are not familiar with the protocol in the UK. What is a therapeutic exemption? Because from somebody on this side of the pond, it sounds like kind of a shield to cover up what guys are actually taking.
Absolutely. I mean, that's not a UK problem. That's a global problem. And
what
you should
is
be speaking. A therapeutic use exemption is someone who takes a substance for an illness or something like that. Again, I'm not a doping agency, so as far as I know on that situation, you would have to go to the governing body, i.e. VADA or someone like that, and you would have to provide all your medical history to say this is something that I need to take. Might be an eczema cream, might be, I don't know, something like that. And the agency would have to approve that substance. That makes sense? All of these situations, you guys have to understand, the decisions are made by these people. Do you know what I mean? They're not made by me. I don't go in and say, yeah, it's fine, mate, take that, don't worry, the fight's taking place, just don't tell anyone. These things are dealt with by governing bodies and by agencies that are employed to make the decisions by the commissions. They're independent bodies. They're experts, they're physicians, they're doctors, they're scientists. So whatever decision was made around Dillian Whyte was made by these people, not by me saying, yeah, forget about it, let's just deal with it in a couple of weeks. That's important. In respect to the therapeutic use exemption, that's something you need to speak to VADA about the process of that happening. But again, it's not just you saying, oh, I need to take this, so is that all right? There's a process that has to be followed in order for that to happen.
Okay, last thing, and I'll let you go. I feel like there's not enough transparency when it comes to performance-enhancing drugs in the sport of boxing. What needs to change for it to get better?
I think we're making progress. I think still, I mean, my comments, I'm getting a bit of stick about this incident when I've been an advocate of VADA testing. We spend hundreds of thousands a year on VADA testing. Every major fight should carry VADA testing. Not potentially get tested, no. 14, 16 weeks of constant VADA testing. That's important, and I've been an advocate of that. For me, if a fighter has intentionally cheated to gain a physical advantage in a fight, they should be banned for life. Unquestionable. There are incidents, and I know plenty of fighters that have failed a test where they've been sloppy or unlucky. Unfortunately, it's hard to have one rule for one and one rule for another, if that makes sense. Some incidents, won't name any names, heavyweights recently, who've pulled out of Anthony Joshua fight, where it's so, like, it's just about 3 substances and the way they are ingested and the levels in them and stuff like that. So it can only be a cheat. Do you know what I mean?
But there's no significant suspension. The WBA came out with a 6 months, but that's a slap on the wrist.
The problem is, this is the good thing about UCAD, right? Which you'll learn as this case goes on. UCAD can sanction. UCAD, if a fighter, say it could be Dillian White, is found guilty, he will be sanctioned by UCAD. The problem with VADA is they report, they do an amazing job, but they can't sanction. So the problem is with the Gerald Miller situation is, who is going to sanction?
Should be the commission.
Exactly. But when he hasn't got a license, which he didn't have at the time, he can't have that license suspended. So now what will happen is Gerald Miller just using, and I'm done with hitting on Gerald Miller. Like, get on with his life. Like, I like the guy. Like, just, you know. But what I'm saying is, the commissions now, he will apply for a license in another commission, right? Whether they pass him or not is up to that commission, you know. But really, there should be someone. I wish VADA could come out and say, you have done this. The length of ban that we impose is 4 years, 2 years, 1 year, whatever it is. But your bigger problem is the bigger problem, is in America, because at least in England there is a body who, if a fighter has knowingly cheated and he's failed a test, they will sanction him and they will ban him. There's a case with Eric Molina. You won't know this. Eric Molina failed a test for the Anthony Joshua fight. I think he's still banned from taking part in the UK. Right? So at least they ban. So with the Dillian White situation, let it unplay, make your own judgment, and if they feel that he's cheated or he's taken a banned substance and this, that, they will ban him, and they will ban him for years. All right? Okay. But innocent till proven guilty. It's more these days guilty till proven innocence. But it's very important for you to know that a hearing took place regarding this incident prior to the bout. Do you know what I mean? Not, oh, there's the news. Okay, don't tell anyone. Let's just get the fight over.
Which has historically happened in the sport.
Not yet. Not in my experience. Virtually impossible. Virtually impossible. Where a fighter has failed a drugs test and you can just sweep it under the carpet. Because it was very important in this situation that there was this hearing so that it could be dealt with by experts, not by you, not by me, who don't know what we're talking about, by experts.
And was Ruiz's team notified?
No, because there's nothing to notify them with whilst there's a hearing taking place. If he failed and they said, you're not allowed to fight, blah, 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 of course he would have been told. But what do? You go and say, just to let you know, there was an inquiry, there was a hearing, and he's cleared to fight. Just wanted to let you know. Like, you can't. That's going to be almost unfair to Ruiz. You know, I understand the argument of letting a fighter know, but whilst and by the way, the whole thing is confidential. Whilst the fighter's getting the right to be heard, say that Ruiz is alerted to a problem and then tells everybody, tells the media. We're in the same situation we're in now, where everybody's accusing Dillian White without knowing the facts. You know, so then it's prejudice to the hearing. So that's why it's asked to be kept confidential. Don't mind telling you the truth. There was a hearing, an independent panel assessed it, and he was cleared. That's the truth. But I understand your argument, but I just feel that in a confidential situation like that, in a legal case, unless a fighter is suspended to fight, unless he's banned to fight, then really you can't just prejudice the guy's position in a hearing.
I feel like test results should be made public, so there's transparency.
Yeah, but VADA, when you do VADA, there's certain people on the email, right, of all the reports. So, for example, that fight, Ruiz against White, every time the fighter is tested, the reports of that test will go to me, the British Boxing Board of Control, Yvonne Michel, Team Oscar Ruiz, Dillian White, Oscar Ruiz, the WBC, right? That's the testing results. If it comes back positive, they don't say, this has come back positive, the fight's off. They say, this has come back positive, it's over to you guys. Do you know what I mean? Look at Gerald Miller in that situation. VADA reported that incident. They don't say he's failed all these tests, he's banned for 4 years. They say that we've done our job, we're reporting it to you. I almost don't like that, because in that incident, the New York Commission came on and said, you're banned. Or no, we won't license you. Right? But if they would have said, no, we've looked at this and we don't agree, we will license you, almost contractually, we have to fight. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Like, so in that incident with Ruiz, contractually, if a fighter is cleared by everybody, I can't say, okay, the fight's not taking place? You know what I mean? Because contractually, I'm breaching. You know. So I have to make sure that we do things properly, that these people make the decisions, and we follow the decisions of the governing body. And that's what we do.
Has DILLIAN WHYTE said anything to you since
He's devastated. He's devastated because the same thing. He hasn't had a chance yet. All you've heard so far is one side of the story, right? So let the other side of the story be heard, and you can make your decisions.
3, 2, 1. Ken Johnson with Matchroom's CEO, Mr. D. Eddie Hearn.
We're in your hood.
Yet again.
Yes.
Got a lot to talk about now.
Yeah.
We're going to start off with Joshua and Ruiz. Is he crazy for even bringing that up? Because I know some people in the legal world, they said that any judge in the world will look at that and say, come off those belts or take your ass to the UK. Is that about how it goes?
It's not even the belts. It's the contractual obligation that Andy Ruiz has to fight a rematch. I mean, you know, he was given the opportunity to fight for a world title, let's be honest, out of nowhere. We picked him off a list, right? So have the respect to honour what you agreed. Do you know what I mean? Which he will, by the way. And I have absolutely no doubt that he will. Andy Ruiz is a good guy. He's a stand-up guy. He's an honourable man. But he has got people in his ear saying, oh, don't do this, blah, blah, blah. So, but again, everybody that signed that contract are aware of their obligations. I do believe the fight will take place on December 14th in Cardiff. We will have to see if that's finalised, but it will be finalised very soon.
How much do you think that'd be an advantage for Joshua being more familiar home turf?
Might be an advantage, might be a disadvantage, having more pressure. You know, I mean, he just fought Andy Ruiz in his country, right, in the US. I know he's of Mexican descent, but he's born and lives in the US. So this time he's going to fight him in the UK. Now there will be the added pressure of the people. For me, there's actually less pressure to do the fight at Madison Square Garden. You go back there, you know.
Scene of the crime.
Yeah, but if you lose, you say, well, I probably should have gone to England, and you go back and you have a fight in England. If you lose in England, it ain't great, you know. So I think there's actually added pressure on Joshua doing it in the UK. I just think it's a decision of the training team to say, do you know what, you know, this is probably where you should do this fight.
Do you think he needs to make any changes within his camp, trainers,
that's for him and Rob McCracken to look at. I mean, those guys are joint at the hip. You know, they've been together from his amateur days. They'll be together for the rest of his career. Joshua knows that he has to adapt. You know, we don't know in that fight, was it strategy? Was it mindset? Was it confidence? Was it, I don't know, all these different things. Was it just taking him too lightly? Probably a mixture of everything, really. But he's a different animal in this fight. Like, I know that even talking to him. He wasn't up for that first fight. Everybody was saying to him, oh, when you beat this guy, yeah, so when you're going to fight Wilder? He's like, yeah, I've got to take care of Ruiz first. Well, obviously you're going to take care of Ruiz. So he puts him down, he gets up and he's just...
People sleeping on that fact that he put him on his ass.
I know. And Andy Ruiz got hit by a right hand when he got up that would have shook most trees, you know? So Ruiz got a good chin, but Ruiz gambled. He took the chance and he deserved credit for that. He won. He was the better man on the night, you know?
Are you still in shock a month and a half later from what you saw?
Not really, because nothing surprises me in boxing, you know? So, yeah. No, I mean, you see everything. So, I never rule out AJ losing. Like, he's learning. So he's not the finished article in heavyweight boxing. And I knew Ruiz was a good fighter. That's why we took the fight, because he wanted a real fight. You know, wanted to give the fans a real fight. Unfortunately, we wish we would have taken an easy fight, but you've got to win a rematch.
What do you think about the Wilder Furies and all that shaking out and them fighting each other in February?
I think nothing's guaranteed, you know. I mean, you can see someone might lose a fight coming up. I like the fight. I like Fury. I like Wilder. I think they're great for the division. I think right now there's at least 10 heavyweights that can all beat each other, which I think is brilliant for the division. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see that fight. Maybe, if it happens, and when, and maybe next year.
What's the fight that has to happen in 2020 in that division? That has to happen.
In the heavyweight division?
Yeah, heavyweight.
Well, it all depends, doesn't it? If Joshua beats Ruiz, then he's got to fight Wilder for the undisputed. You know, I mean, if Ruiz beats Joshua, probably he'll fight Wilder for the undisputed. You know, Usyk's coming in. You know, so I think there's so many great fights, we made in that division.
Speaking of heavyweights, I have to go switch gears and talk about your man DILLIAN White. Did you see the post that Deontay Wilder had?
Yeah, I did. Look, all these guys, there's a lot of people with agendas, right? And you know, you've seen me answer quite a few questions. There's a lot that I can say and a lot that I can't say legally on this situation. What I can say is both guys were tested by VADA and by UKAD in the build-up to this fight. Both guys were cleared by both bodies to take part in this fight and by the commission. Okay, there was a hearing prior to the fight where Dillian Whyte was asked to provide information. That hearing took place with an independent panel through the testing agency, and he was cleared to take part in the fight. That's, as far as I'm concerned, as a promoter, that's it. He was cleared by the British Boxing Board of Control. He was cleared to fight by the governing body. That's it. Now, there is some issues to resolve, and a lot of the stuff that's being reported, half of it is true, half of it is false. There'll be a statement tomorrow from Dillian Whyte, but at the moment, all you guys are just hearing one side of the story. But it's very important for you to know that there was a hearing that took place that cleared him to fight. A lot of people just think it was brushed under the carpet, and it was just no one knew about it. It was just, you keep it all quiet till later. It doesn't work like that, and it wouldn't be right to work like that. So this was, you know, the information was assessed by these people, and he was cleared to fight.
What's your confidence level that he'll be cleared whenever everything you said?
No, you know, I believe that any fighter that has knowingly cheated in the sport of boxing should never be allowed to fight again, and I do not believe that he's one of them. And I believe that from the information that's been provided and the fact that he was cleared to fight, I believe that he will be cleared on all levels. I don't know everything about this situation. What I do know is that this hearing took place and he was cleared and approved to fight. Once that happens, you know, I'm not a physician, I'm not a medic, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a testing agency. These people are there to do their job and make their decisions, and they made a decision.
People are coming at you and stuff. They're comparing this situation to the whole Joshua and Big Baby Miller.
Well, it's completely different. I mean, like, it's completely different. I mean, one is the guy who failed 3 tests. I don't have to set them people straight. They're going to think what they want to think. But what I'd say to that is one guy tested for 3 positive substances with extensive levels in his system of HGH. I mean, like, just on another level. You've got another guy who had to provide information. This guy was VADA tested, Dillian Whyte, for his whole camp. Passed all of them, right? So he was asked to provide the information was assessed, he was cleared. So if you have an issue with that, I suggest you speak to the agency, the governing body, and all these people. I'm a promoter. I don't tell people who passes drug tests or who's cleared to fight or who's licensed. That's not my job, that's the job of these people known as the governing body, who follow a procedure. They've got rules, and the rules were followed. And now there is a confidential situation going on where Dillian Whyte will be taking action against several media outlets who have reported inaccuracies.
You know their names out? What outlets? Because
not you, don't worry, you're safe.
What kind of action are you talking, Eddie?
No, but he's got, you can't let an outlet or a platform.